By April the 14th, Richmond, the Confederate capital, has fallen. It is occupied by U.S. troops. Robert E. Lee has surrendered, and it looks almost certain that Joseph Johnston, the Confederate leading the second largest army next to Lee's, is going to surrender to General Sherman. So at this point, that Lincoln and Mary were feeling relief, thinking that this long nightmare was over. So they go to watch a play at Ford's Theater, that play being Our American Cousin, a comedy. And this is when John Wilkes Booth, a Southern sympathizer, takes advantage of the moment to assassinate Lincoln. He died the very next day at 7:22 a.m. Mary was at his side, and throughout this long night, she repeatedly begged her husband to say one last word to her. Of course, he never regained consciousness. And Mary returned to the White House and simply collapsed. 7 months later, she wrote, "When I reflect, as I am always doing, upon the overwhelming loss of that most idealized boy," she's talking about Willie, "and the crushing blow that deprived me of my all in all of this life, I wonder that I retain my reason to live." After a few overseas trips, Varina stays in London, and Jefferson Davis goes back to the US with the plan to write a memoir. So he returns to the States in November of 1876, and he is invited by a widow, Mrs. Sarah Dorsey, to come and live in a guest cottage on her estate, Beauvoir, which is on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, outside of Biloxi. Jefferson Davis did that. He begins work on his memoir. Mrs. Dorsey is helping him. The one thing that Jefferson Davis does not do is tell his wife what he's doing. And when Varina found out about this, she was livid. She was certainly jealous of this other woman taking over this role that she had always had. Remember all the letters that she wrote for her husband during the war. Prior to the war, she helped write speeches for him. So Varina, when she did return to the U.S., refused to move in at Beauvoir. She ended up going to Memphis, where by this point, Maggie, their eldest, had married a banker, Joel Addison Hayes. So she moved in, stayed with her daughter for a little while. And it wasn't until July of 1878, about a year and 8 months of living apart from her husband, that she finally moved in at Beauvoir. So this is an image of kind of the reunited Davises on the porch of Beauvoir with Maggie, their eldest daughter.